Good afternoon, Wealth Our Way Nation. What is going on? It is your man, Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, where our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. Welcome to episode 24. Why is wealth important to you? I want to thank each and every one of you who are here with me live as I stream across our Wealth Our Way platforms on both Facebook and YouTube. I want to give a special salute and shout out to the Wealth Our Way Nation members who watch the program pre-recorded overnight, on the weekend, or wherever they can squeeze 15 minutes of financial literacy in, and a heartfelt, how are you doing to the Life 101 platform who listens to this program on the audio recording. With all of that intro section out the way, I want to wrap up this week of financial psychology by delving into the simple question of why is wealth important to you? What does wealth even mean to you? Why are we here every day pursuing financial literacy and monetary excellence? For me, when I think of that question, it is so broad and such a diverse array of thoughts come to my mind, because growing up without a lot of monetary blessings in our home, I'll leave it there, we still had a good childhood. And it's one of those things where I hear this phrase a lot when I'm dealing in educational matters, where you don't know what you don't know. And growing up, seeing people to the left and to the right of you living in lack, and not necessarily knowing, other than the materialism that was promoted on television or in movies, what it actually looked like or felt like to have any form of monetary or material abundance. You didn't really understand impoverished situations all that well. What I like to say is there's an old phrase: it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. I understand what that phrase means. I feel as though when it comes to money, it is not better to have had money and lost it than to have never had money at all, because I have experienced a financial setback that was, in my mind, catastrophic when it happened. And I hear that from a lot of people who are first-time wealth experiencers, or first-time having their means exceed what they were used to. There was a Tony Robbins seminar that I attended a very long time ago when I first got into financial services. And I believe I've quoted this before on a previous episode of 15 Minutes. But Tony Robbins said people are very easily relatable and very easily can understand when your circumstances go down, when something bad happens to you. People can empathize, people can relate, people can understand why you're not doing well. If you lose your job, if your marriage falls apart, if you lose a loved one, people can commiserate with you very easily. What people don't understand quite as easy is what happens when your situation improves dramatically and you weren't expecting it or you weren't prepared for it. So he used the analogy of a thermostat. He said, if you were sitting in a room and the temperature was 72 degrees and all of a sudden it went down to 50 degrees, people would understand, hey, this cold is uncomfortable. He said, comparably, though, if the thermostat went up from 72 degrees to 95 degrees, people will be like, oh, gosh, it's hot as hell in here now. It's uncomfortable. When you think of it in a thermostat analogy, it's very easy to see that going too far either way from your normal is uncomfortable. But when we look at it in real life, practical application, people don't see the going up as something that's difficult to navigate. I personally experienced that when I got into brokerage and started making a great deal of money, with 3 times what I was used to making the year prior. I experienced depression in massive waves for the first time. And I didn't quite understand how I was feeling so bad when things were going so well. But there was a disconnect because I was leaving my normal. I didn't have an understanding of what being financially successful meant, how it could help my family, how I could manage and navigate it. And as a result, it has left me more experienced when I talk to my clientele about, especially when I work with professional athletes who have sudden wealth syndrome. You have guys who may have grown up impoverished like I did, all of a sudden being handed a check for $20 million. That is a lot to navigate. They say that a large percentage of lottery winners go broke inside of 3 to 6 years because they didn't not only have the financial tools to navigate having that much money, but they didn't have the psychological readiness to handle that type of money. So I ask people, we do a financial psychology assessment amongst our clients as part of the Wealth Our Way WOW University criteria to help you understand, what does wealth mean to you? What does money mean to you? When I'm speaking at schools or to other people in groups, I always use this analogy. If you had $5 billion, $5 billion locked in a room, it's your money. You own it 100%, but you can't spend any of it. You can't show the world you have it. Is it worth $5 billion? And, the quick answer is, yeah, it's 5 billion, it's 5 billion. That doesn't change. But the reality is, upon deeper introspective thought on it, it does change. It's not of value if you can't utilize it. I don't know a great many people who want to make money for money's sake. Now, there is some truth to the fact that as you get successful, you start to use money as a scorecard. You start to use money and look at it as a litmus test. And you want to say, hey, compared to this person, I have this. But that's a very narrow view of money, and very few people think of it that way. For the majority of us, money, wealth, riches, these are things that lend themselves as a tool to get us what we really want from life. In a lot of instances, it's more control. It's more freedom. It's more access. It's more ability to provide. I do know a lot of selfish people, do not get me wrong, but more and more people show themselves to be generous and altruistic when they get wealth. We have this, there's a famous psychiatrist, Abraham Maslow, and it might be Abram Maslow, I may be butchering it, but one of the biggest principles from Psych 101 that I learned in college was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And on this, it's illustrated as a pyramid. In the pyramid, the first thing that every human being must have before they can think of anything else is knowing that physiologically they are safe, that they have shelter, that they have provision, that their physical survival is not in threat, that a saber-toothed tiger is not going to attack them and kill them at any moment. Once you have these basic physiological needs met, the next thing that human beings seek is togetherness, which is why we gravitate to communities. Back way before any of us were born, when things weren't as densely populated, people migrated to be around each other. They migrated to be around each other. People get married. People have families. Businesses are partnerships more than sole proprietorships because we want to feel like we are in it with someone else. This is something that's ingrained in you, even if you don't understand why you do it. That psychological need for safety and then togetherness. Once you have those two things met, now we get up into what I would call the flossing side of things. Now we have our individual wants, desires, needs, likes, preferences come to the forefront because we know we're safe. We know somebody has our back. Now we want to shine. Now we want to have what we have. Now we want to put our stamp on it. Make it look the way we want it to look. This is where money and wealth come front and center. This is where you get to have your style. It's interesting because there's a lot of talk about the different generations. We are a labeling society. Everybody needs a label. So I think I am a Gen Xer. Then there's, the millennials, there's Gen Z, there's all these different generational names, the baby boomers that preceded my generation. With that being said, everybody has a different look and understanding and mindset as it surrounds money. We see the millennials and the group after the millennials, they don't have the same ties to money that we have as Gen Xers, as baby boomers have. pre-baby boomers, the people who experienced the Great Depression, these things that we lived through have shaped our values more about money than anything else. The reason my children don't care as much about money as I care about money is they never had to want for anything growing up. I gave my children everything. They're spoiled. And that's my fault. So when I was growing up, there were school trips that I wanted to go to. I brought the paper home to my mom and she was like, boy, get out my face. You're not going on that trip. It was just normal. It was, it would have been exceptional if the trip occurred. Nowadays, my kids break an iPad, bring me the broken iPad and say, Dad, I need a new one of these. It's a different mindset. So because they don't have the same investment in their mind of how money is actually procured, they'll be the first to tell you that quality of life is way more important than money. They don't necessarily feel as though they need to own homes, that they need to be tied to a job. I have heard of people more often than you guys could imagine talking about retiring at 30. Hell, at 30, you're just getting into your career. But people don't want to work the way my generation wanted to work or the prior generation wanted to work. What they want is a quality of life. What they want is a work-life balance. They want more. There's more to life in their mind than getting up in the morning, punching the clock for 40 years, retiring and only getting to enjoy your fruits of your 40-year career for 10 years of retirement and then possibly passing away. To them, wealth doesn't necessarily mean dollars. Wealth means the freedom to do whatever it is they wish to do. And I would tell you guys that if you take a deeper look, and the weekend is a great time to do that, take a deeper look at your life and what is important to you. In my accountability call yesterday, one of the brothers said he was reading an article, and the article was entitled, "Is What Matters Most to You What Matters Most?" And he had to repeat it for me to get it. Is what matters most to you what matters most? And I thought about it after he said it. I think about the things that matter most to me. But in the grander scheme of things, are those the things that really matter most in general? And the reality is everyone is different. Now, once again, I am a serial worker. I'm a serial attractor of wealth. I want more. I want more because I'm in tune with what having these funds allow me to do. The freedom, the flexibility, the control. You call me up and say, hey, Tank, let's go somewhere next Thursday. I'm going. I can make my schedule around. I can, make sure I'm somewhere to get this program recorded, but I can move my schedule around. I love the freedom that my life affords me. There are people who can tell you right off the bat, I can't go. I have an obligation that I have to be here. So when you think about wealth, you have to think about it in more than just what the size of your bank account is. You have to think of it in terms of your quality of life. Why are we living? Why are we here? What are we doing all of this for? And we talked about this earlier in the week. So many people rush out the house, rush from under their parents' safety provision because they're tired of being told what to do. And they jump out into a situation where they now have expenses that meet the revenue they're bringing in. They get into what is famously called the rat race, and they never get out. They never have an opportunity to bank any money. They live right to their means. In some cases, they go into debt immediately and never get out of debt. This tends to happen a lot in the African-American community, which is why there is a racial wealth gap. We don't start with a head up, a leg up, a nest egg. We don't start with abundance. We don't start by delaying gratification. And that is all a function on what wealth means to you. I can't wait to get this paycheck so I can do this. If you keep your expenses matched up with your revenues, you'll never be able to build wealth. And that is one of the reasons why we're here talking every day. So as we go into the weekend, I challenge you guys to take a deeper look as to what wealth means to you and come back next week ready for some tips and some tools on how we're going to start to build wealth inside of Wealth Our Nation and beyond. I hope you guys all have a blessed weekend. I love you all for being here. I look forward to seeing you all on Monday. And remember, wealth is not only for the wealthy. Take care.